I'm drowning. Waters surround me, pressuring me, pushing me down. I don't know what to do. When I open my mouth to speak, it fills up with more of the same until my lungs are filled and no words can come out. I feel saturated, full of frustration, of concern, of sorrow. I'm overwhelmed with calls to action, opportunities to right the wrongs, to calm the waters. But where do I start? How do I start? When the world floods, I feel paralyzed. Will the floodwaters ever subside? I know I'm not the only one asking this question. When Noah lifts his head after the biblical flood, he too asks, will the floodwaters ever subside? So Noah sends out 2 birds, a raven and a dove. 2 birds to scour and explore this saturated landscape. Noah first releases the raven. He never returns. So Noah then sends out the dove, and she returns twice before leaving for good. We presume the raven never returns because he immediately finds a place to land. A carnivorous bird, the raven is at ease in a destroyed world. The raven thrives in destruction. The dove, however, does not. The dove departs and then returns, unable to find what she is looking for. First, the dove comes back completely empty-handed. So Noah waits and then sends her out again. The dove returns again, but this time, there's an olive branch in her beak. After another week of waiting, Noah sends her out again. This time, the dove does not return. Presumably, she found a place to land. The dove teaches Noah and us to be patient, to persevere. The dove returning suggests the earth wasn't ready just yet for us. So when the dove does not return, Noah knows. Noah knows the earth is ready. We can begin to rebuild. The ark can be emptied safely. The raven and the dove, 2 models for how to deal with a flooded and fractured world. The raven leaves the ark, sees a world laid waste, and thrives. In this environment, much like our world today, there is plenty of death and destruction to feed on. All of us have moments when the raven comes out of us. We fight fire with hotter, angrier fire. We comment on social media with a great comeback. We yell at someone with whom we disagree. We insult them personally. We pick at them, picking at what is already in disrepair. Being the raven sometimes feels great. It feels powerful. We release our anger. We get to scream and beat our fists. We get to type in all caps. It's cathartic. It has its purpose. The dove offers a different perspective, though, on destruction and how to navigate the waters. The dove's journey is long. It takes many tries and 3 attempts for the dove to leave for good. But we often leave out this idea, this reality, this extension of time when we talk about these metaphors, when we use the dove and the olive branch as symbols of peace, when we use them to say to extend an olive branch as if that's a simple metaphor. We know it's not. The text teaches us that the olive branch is anything but simple or obvious. It takes 2 tries to find. And it took the dove finding that olive branch and bringing it back to the ark for Noah to even begin to think it might be time to rebuild. The dove's leaving and returning and leaving and returning teaches us just how much time this takes. It takes so long for the floodwaters to subside. And we don't have the divine intervention that helped them to dissipate that first time. The olive branch is not a symbol of peace or prosperity. but instead it's a symbol of possibility. It's a symbol of potential. Finding a proverbial olive branch does not mean you have achieved your goal, but it means that you have not cut yourself off from achieving it in the future. We must employ the model of the dove if we are ever to rise above these floodwaters. 1 year ago, I stood here and talked about Me Too, about biblical silencing and the importance of raising women's voices. And we have seen moments of growth and change and progress in the years since. We have seen progress. But then 2 weeks ago happened. We witnessed the bravery of a woman stepping up and stepping forward to share her story in front of the United States Senate Judiciary Committee and the world, only to have her integrity undermined and her believability scrutinized. We were once again flooded with pain. The dove returned to the ark. But just like that dove, we must muster up the strength to leave again. We venture out again and again and again until we find dry land, until we find justice. It has been a week since the confirmation of Justice Kavanaugh, a confirmation opposed by our reform movement and Jewish organizations across the country. It has been a week when I have been the raven, have wanted to be the raven, when many of us have wanted to be and been the raven. But now it's time to go the way of the dove. We continue to raise awareness about rape culture in our communities. We continue to support survivors. We continue to say, Me Too. For it's not just about the current crisis, it's about the long term. In the Me Too movement, with natural disasters, in our era of breaking news alerts and comment after comment after comment, we must go the way of the dove. We must remind ourselves of the bigger picture if we are ever able to keep our heads above the water. As Jews, we know a thing or two about patience and resilience. Our history is full of stories of our ancestors overcoming insurmountable odds. When our first temple was destroyed, our ancestors in exile did not give up. They regrouped. They re-envisioned. They figured out a way to create new practices and new ideologies in their new space. And yes, at times our ancestors, we have lost our way. We've lost our way in times of tragedy. But eventually, we adapt, we modify, and we find new ways to thrive. From trauma, we have had to heal time and time again. And it was never simple or easy. Change never is. Change isn't linear. But we've persevered, even when that change happened very slowly. Vayachel, the verb for wait, in Genesis 8, verse 12, the end of this episode, right before Noah lets the dove go for the final time, is different. The other verbs in this scene are written in the active call form, but this one is written in the reflexive form. Why? Rashi hypothesizes that this change means that Vayachel means more than just Noah waited, but that Noah patiently waited. We cannot move forward all at once. Change is possible, but change is slow. The dove is not a model of passive, blind optimism, but actually a model of hope. Rabbi Lord Jonathan Sacks defines this difference as follows, saying, optimism is the belief that the world is changing for the better. Hope is the belief that together we make the world better. Hope is active. It takes courage, it takes strength and patience to sustain this process of hope, to keep fighting for and looking for signs of olive branches out there, in the hands of those we agree with and the hands of those we don't. And most importantly, to keep fighting even after that olive branch has been found. It feels satisfying to succumb to our inner raven, but the dove teaches us that hope lingers just beyond the horizon. She comes back with the olive branch to say to us, there's something out there. We just aren't ready yet. She teaches us to look for the tiniest signs of life and growth, because staying on this path can be exhausting. We can't give up. We can't give up even though we may need to take time for self-care. We need to regroup. We need to relax, take a break, take a Shabbat, turn it all off. Return to our ark. Noah gave the dove time. We need to give ourselves time too. But then we leave again to seek that olive branch. We must go the way of the dove. And we return to the ark not only to recharge our batteries, but also to tell everyone else that it's time to go. It's time to push forward, to lead the charge towards change. That is our imperative as Jews, to be like the dove, to keep pushing forward, to keep looking for signs of flourishing and renewal, and to create growth. When we feel flooded by division, by anger, by hate, we may lean heavily on our raven-esque selves. But then we must remember, the raven doesn't end the story. The raven is not who enables Noah to leave the ark and rebuild the world. The dove serves as that guide. There are times to be the raven, to release our anger, to yell, to make a dramatic action. But eventually, patient, dove-esque behaviors are what focus and lead our guide towards justice and change. We learn from the flood narrative that after we begin to start again, we need to move cautiously, slowly, see the potential for reconciliation before we move into change and regrowth. Change is possible, but change is slow. God said God would never destroy the world again, but humanity has the capacity to do so. So may we reach past our instinct to be only the raven, and instead to seek out those olive branches, to be the dove, and to look and work and create for a model in this world where the dove can land for good, even if it takes many, many tries.